YouTube, what's going on? This preacher. So, talk quickway logistics, the brokerage, real fast. So, I did a load for them back in January. All right, it paid $500. It went 120 miles for that. Basically, I dropped my load off like I'm here now at my direct shipper that I have. So I pick a load up in Jupiter and take it to Arcadia, Florida, which is about 120 miles, right? And it goes towards my house. So that's one of the reasons why I do that load as well. That's a nice, profitable load for me, and it gets me home after I do the load here where I'm at now. So yeah, so with Quickway, you have to use the Trucker Tool app so they can follow you, which I used the Trucker Tool app. Plus, they do check calls, which I also answer. That's the other thing. So it turns out that they decided to take $250 off the that load, that $500 load, and they said that I wasn't communicating with them. So in turns, I go, how in the world wasn't I communicating with them? This is what I was telling the company that I'm leased on to, because they deducted that amount back out of my check. I'm like, I used the Trucker Tools app, which they got the verification that I used it. I said, and plus they also called as well. So what non-communication are they talking about? I'm not understanding. How you just gonna take $250 off of a load about non-communication when I actually used the Trucker Tool app on that? So then I also sent the company I'm leased on to my call logs for that time, which they called me 3 times. The day before I picked up the load, they called to verify that I was still going to get the load on that day. And then the day of, they called. And then after I delivered that load, they called the next morning as well. So I'm like, how you saying that I didn't answer the phone? And I showed them my call logs. And each time I was on the phone for over 25 minutes with them. So I'm saying that these are the only times that they call, and each time I was on the phone for over 25 seconds, not 25 minutes with them. So some way is something going on, whether it's a mistake on Quickway part or not. But, and like I told the company that I'm leased on to, you know, all right, that's fraud what they're doing, because we had a contract and I did my part of the contract and I honored my part of the contract, and then you still not pay me off that part of the contract. So you taking half the amount off. I mean, so yeah, I was mad about it. And then, like I told my lease company, I say, listen, if I have to chop it up to the game, I chop it up to the game. $250. Get lawyers and stuff involved. Hey, to get my lawyer involved just for that 1 hour, it costs $250. But I think that's why sometimes that they do it. They do it because they know, well, you won't get a lawyer involved or anything like that. Worst case scenario, you won't take a load. Or they think because I do loads for them every single week that maybe I need them. You know, and maybe they was mad because they tried to get me to do the load for $400. I'm like, no, I'm gonna do it for $500. If you want me to do it, I'm doing it for $500, right? And then they was trying to say, well, we do these loads for $400. You don't do those loads for $400 with me. You could do those loads $400 with another person, but I never did this load for $400. And like I told them that day on that load, I was like, listen, okay, my last 8 loads for y'all with this, every single week was $500. Then they always try to give me an excuse. Well, they may was $500 because the load needed to go. It was an emergency run or something. And I'm like, what you mean it was an emergency run or anything? I don't care what your reason was of paying me the $500. The point is, my last 8 times with this load, you paid me $500. So I'm not finna go down to $400 when you've been paying me $500. Whatever the reason. I guess the last 8 times I did it, for the last 8 weeks, it always was an emergency. So they gave me the $500. But I think because the guy, I challenged the guy or whatever, he went around and did this. I mean, I don't know the reason why. They wasn't check calling me throughout the time of the load, because the load picked up at 9 o'clock at night and it delivered 3 o'clock in the morning. So it wasn't no check calls throughout that time because, they was asleep. So they just called me before I picked up the load, and then they called me the next morning about 8:22, the next morning that they called to see if I have delivered the load, which again, I used the app. I used the app when I arrived. I used the app when I departed, both for the shipper and the receiver. But yet they're still trying to charge me $250. So I'm going to see what's going to come out of this quick way. And like I told them, I said, man, it's more about the principle, because I've done a lot of loads with them. So who's to say that they're not going to go back on the other loads and say, hey, well, this person didn't communicate with them too, and try to not pay for the other loads that I have done with them, but I remember some other truckers were saying how these brokers don't even pay for the detention time or anything like that, and then they won't pay, but then they'll call you to do another load when they don't even want to pay you for the detention time when you didn't stay somewhere. So that's just quick way logistics. Yeah, I'm going to call them out with it, because listen, if you're down here in Florida and they out of Lakeland, Florida, okay, they out of Lakeland, Florida, and they use a lot of owner ops, people who's booking their own loads and stuff, because they don't do big companies like this, but they'll do the little person. Don't let them get away with it. Do not let them get away with it. I mean, I'm not going to let them get away with it. I mean, I have a lawyer on retainer, so I may just use the lawyer services anyway, because I got him on retainer. I mean, he can send some letters to them, some threatening letters to them, and see what they do about this $250. Because I make their lawyer charge them to fight my lawyer, because my lawyer is to send letters and stuff. All that is free, So their lawyer will have to get to work, and they're going to be like, this is going to be the worst $250 that we ain't pay somebody. I can make my lawyer just go through all this illegal stuff, which is free to me, and have their lawyers charge them for $250 worth of stuff, because I got all the proof that I did what I was supposed to have did. And that's only if they don't pay me. But anyway, y'all, quick way logistics, watch out for it.